Tonight's headlines span war, terrorism, economics, courts, and institutional trust. Good evening. This is What If News. James Madison, George Washington, John Adams warned that liberty is rarely lost all at once. It erodes gradually. When fear, war, dependency, and urgency converge, the convergence is visible in today's news. Ukraine peace talks, security guarantees versus territory. U.S., Ukrainian, and European leaders continue peace talks focused on one unresolved issue: whether Ukraine should receive long-term NATO-style security guarantees in exchange for territory concessions in eastern regions of Ukraine, including parts of Damascus. Ukraine President Zelensky has stated that territory represents sovereignty, identity, and consent, not merely just land. European governments and NATO leadership are shaping the security framework, while U.S. participation is handled through senior administration envoys and national security institutes. James Madison warned that war is the greatest enemy of liberty. Not because defense is illegitimate, but because war concentrates power, expands executive authorities, and creates permanent obligations. George Washington, in his farewell address, cautioned against permanent alliances that entangled nations in commitments driven by interest rather than consent. The Founding Fathers had lived this reality. They saw war, debt weaken independence. They saw inflation erode household stability. They saw emergencies justify permanent power. Markets understand this dynamic today. Energy prices react to every signal. Economic pressures spread far beyond the battlefield. The Founding Fathers knew this truth well. War abroad becomes pressure on liberty at home. Millions of Americans soon face higher health care costs as the Affordable Care Act subsidies expire. Boy, that was a real ramrod situation there. Despite negotiations in Congress, lawmakers failed to extend subsidies administered by federal health agencies. George Washington believed liberty depends on independence, not only political independence, but economic independence. Thomas Jefferson warned that dependency concentrates power, urging that people who lack economic agency loses the ability to resist authority. Economic pressure reshapes consent. When citizens are financially strained, they become more willing to trade liberty for relief. This is not ideology, it's history.
Sits down in his rocking chair, staring out a window pane. Takes a good long look at the town, notices that nothing's changed. Heads down to the water hole, he's looking just to quench his thirst. Knows damn well when he gets down there, it's only making matters worse. He's grown tired of always being alone. He's grown tired of always getting stoned. Well, he's got a few lessons to learn, and there ain't enough gas for all the bridges to burn. And he hopes somebody's gonna take him home. Yeah, he hopes somebody's gonna take him home. lesson to learn. And there ain't enough gas for all the bridges to burn. And she hopes somebody's gonna take her home. Yeah, she hopes somebody's gonna take her home. Daylight turns to evening, the jukebox still turned on, and neither one is leaving till the others had their fun. 'Cause they've grown tired of always being alone. And they've grown tired of always getting stoned. Yeah, they got a few lessons to learn, and there ain't enough gas for all the bridges to burn. They hope somebody's gonna take them home. Yeah, they hope somebody's gonna take them home.
The Federal Reserve approved a narrow interest rate cut, with officials describing the decision as a close call amid inflation risk and economic uncertainty. James Madison distrusted concentrated power, especially power that operates beyond direct public accountability. Alex Hamilton, though advocating for a strong financial system, warned that debt and credit could enslave future generations if left unchecked. Well, for certain, there's a lot of people in debt because of past administrations. So hopefully that gets better. The founding fathers learned through wartime inflation that unstable money erodes liberty faster than bad laws. In other news, several legal accountability cases continue moving through the courts. Attorney Ken Queso, Cheesebro, whatever, remains in other news. Several legal accountability cases continue moving through the courts. One for certain, which is Hunter Biden, is being disbarred in Connecticut following federal convictions. John Adams insisted America must be a government of laws and not of men. Liberty collapses when justice appears selective. It is not enough for the law to be fair. It must be seen to be fair. When citizens believe outcomes depend on status rather than law, consent erodes. And without consent, liberty cannot stand. A report from the Government Accountability Office found widespread inaccuracies in federal security clearance data. Other reporting has raised renewed scrutiny of investigative integrity within federal institutions. James Madison assumed institutions would fail. That is why he designed checks and balances and oversight. George Mason, author of the Virginia Declaration of Rights, warned that unchecked authority, even when well-intended, threatens civil liberties. Liberty does not require perfect institutions. It requires accountable ones.
that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found, was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieve. How precious did that grace appear, the hour I first believed. Through many dangerous toils and snares, I have already come. 'Tis grace that brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. When we've been here 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've known less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found, was blind, but now I see.
The United States signed a new status of forces agreement with Paraguay announced by the U.S. Department of State. While Ukraine dominates European headlines, long-term U.S. positioning continues elsewhere. Washington did not oppose engagement. He opposed commitments made without public understanding. A public cannot consent to what they cannot see. The founding fathers, Madison, Washington, Adams, Jefferson, Hamilton, Mason, they argued fiercely, but they agreed on this. Liberty is fragile. Power expands under stress, and only an informed people can stop it. Liberty is not left or right. Liberty is restraint on power, law over fear, equal justice, and consent of the governed. This is What If News, facts, context, and the connections others missed. Good night.